Welcome back to Thursday night on the PPR channel. If you're tuning in, it is time for Southern Discomfort. So we are back on the air tonight with a very special series planned and coming up, and we'll get more into that in just a moment. But wanted to thank everybody who is joining us on the PPR channel, on the Yo Baby channel, and on Facebook. We thank everybody for tuning in tonight for our topic at hand that we're going to be on for the next several shows. And as you all can all see, I have my lovely companion, Bethany, with me. Bethany, we need to play your intro music.
No, we don't. No, we don't. No.
Yeah, we do.
No, we don't. No, we don't. We can keep going.
No, I'm going to play it. I got to switch over to the other thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's all about making you feel special.
Bethany. Hello, Bethany. Say hi to viewers. Here you go. Enjoy the show.
You know, at least the one with the farting horns is funny. This one sounds like you downloaded it from wearelame.com. I mean, it's just 1992 Pentium processor music.
This reminds me of when my computer used to boot up back in the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At least the farting horns is funny. That is just like, ugh. Boring and lame. All right, so what's on the dock?
Excellent,
for
Dustin.
tonight?
So tonight, hello PW, welcome to the chat. So I've been talking about it for the last couple months. We were going to do a series on Satanic Panic, and that time has come. So over the next several Southern Discomfort episodes, we're still covering the book of Revelation when we do the Immortal Shadows. But for Southern Discomfort, over the next several shows, we are going to be investigating it was more than just American culture. All right. This went into the UK, it went into the Netherlands and other places in the world, Australia. The Satanic Panic of the 1980s through the mid-90s. So that is going to be our topic of discussion. For those of you who don't know what the Satanic Panic is, stay tuned and you'll get more than what you bargained for with this show. Now, a heads up is there is going to be sensitive topics talked about, such as ritual abuse, child abuse, things of that nature, which was part of the Satanic Panic scare. So that type of topic will be mentioned tonight, not in any type of too graphic a detail, but it is a subject matter that comes up when talking about this particular issue. So just wanted our listeners to be aware in case you have any small children in the room. This might not be the series for them, for sure. But before we get into our topic of discussion, while we're still waiting for people to come on, Bethany, I just finished booking us something special for Labor Day weekend. It's a surprise.
God, what?
So we haven't had just a getaway yet. So I planned one for you and me over Labor Day weekend up in New York. I found a bed and breakfast there. And this is by far the greatest bed and breakfast. I'm going to read you some of the reviews, and I'm going to show you some of the pictures. And Dustin, you're going to be extremely jealous. But Dustin, I do need you to help me decide what we should drive up there in. Now, I know Bethany's not going to go for this.
So, no, that looks like it was impounded because they were cooking meth in it.
I was thinking I would take our middle of the road when our hub, our mystery machine for the PPR channel. That's what we'll go in.
The Franken RV? I mean, like...
Well, it's going to take us a while to get there driving with this thing. I'll come up and pick you up, and then we'll go over.
That thing wouldn't even start. I mean, like, your best bet would be to have an 18-wheeler come up behind it and just kind of, like, give it a push.
Okay, so I want to show you. This place is called the Catskill Bed and Breakfast Spa. Look how quaint this little thing looks, right? Looks all cute on the outside.
Okay. What's wrong with it?
There's one of the immaculate bedrooms. I haven't even gotten to the good stuff yet. Now,
Okay.
Everybody, you want to put your toothbrush and bar of soap on that.
I remember growing up with one of those, and they all look like that after, like, 2 years.
But the thing that did me was the duct tape on the mattress.
Why is there duct tape on a mattress, and what is that wire?
I don't know, but that's what I want to go find out. Like, when I saw duct tape on a mattress, I was immediately like, this is a place we're going to stay. I'm booking this place. I don't need to see anything more.
For the record, actually, for real, I do not like B&Bs. I don't like Airbnbs, any of that. Oh, man.
What?
Now,
I haven't even gotten to the good stuff yet. Welcome, Vale of the Paranormal. So that, if that was enough, I was sold on the duct tape on the mattress
with a wire, with a cable wire.
But then I started to read the reviews. Okay.
Oh, that should be fun. Go for it.
I've got these pulled up on my computer. That's why you can't see my face. So let me read you some of these. This B&B has the worst reviews out of any I could find. And so that's one reason. One person says, creepy. When we showed up at this B&B at 6:30 in the afternoon and the owner told us that our room was not yet ready, I realized that I should have researched this B&B on TripAdvisor before making the reservation. Now that I have read the reviews, I can honestly say that the overwhelmingly negative reviews are accurate. The word that best describes our experience there is creepy. It was by far the worst B&B experience of our lives. So I was like, okay, that's promising.
But that's not descriptive. What do they mean by creepy? Because each person...
Right, that's the one that intrigued me. So I started reading more. This person says the worst B&B experience ever. Stay away. As most of the other people who have written a review on that place, I wish I had checked reviews first. I was traveling with a friend in the U.S., and we wanted to spend the last 2 days of our trip in a nice place in Catskill. Little did we know. I've stayed in many B&Bs in Britain and in the U.S., but I've never experienced anything like this. No sign in the front. Outside temperature was in the lower 60s. Inside the house, it was the same. We were freezing. Owner asked us to take off our shoes because of the expensive carpets. Owner brought us a heater, which was so noisy we couldn't use it at night. Begrudgingly, he finally turned on the heating. During the night, noises which sounded like a machine heating system or something like that could be heard, which meant that we couldn't sleep. One of the windows had to be boarded up with a large piece of cardboard to block out the sun in the morning because the sun blind was too short. That was my favorite. Okay. That one right there was like, I have to stay in this room. Then this is why I'm reading her review. She mentions the duct tape. The plastic mattress cover on my side of the bed was taped with duct tape. Mentions no locks on the doors, everything like that.
I
Now,
don't know. No, I'm going to be honest.
it just-
I don't mean to be nitpicky here, but these reviews are not exactly shocking to me. I mean, I once stayed at a hotel that was right off of the interstate when I was like 19 or 20, and it had cigarette burns in the mattress. There was only a red light in the whole room, and in the bathroom was a gigantic dead bug that somebody had literally placed up on a toothpick and had writing around it, almost just like a warning to other bugs. Okay. That is a terrifying review and much better than the ones that you're reading here.
it gets better. So they mention how unclean and unsanitary the place is. Then they start to talk about the owner. And the owner is like one of the crazy dudes you would meet off of a horror movie. He's totally politically incorrect. He's mean. He's a little psychotic. He's grumpy. He's off his rocker. So the reviews talking about the hosts were great. So you can look up, if you go to TripAdvisor, you can read about the Catskill Bed and Breakfast and Spa, and that's where we will be staying Labor Day weekend.
Not to toot my own horn, but that's still not going to top the bug sacrifice that I saw in a bathroom off of this rundown hotel off the interstate in Kentucky.
Okay. Hey, Kentucky, Dustin. There you go.
See, everybody in chat agrees with me. Nothing is going to top the bug sacrifice.
Yep. Well, we'll have to set up one when we go.
I wish I had taken a picture of it. I've never. I don't even know how to describe it. I don't even know why someone would do that.
I don't know. Somebody who had some time on their hands, they maybe were a little bored. So,
I have no idea, but with the red lighting, it did look satanic and also hilarious.
Hey, Soul Sister, welcome to the chat. Thank you for hanging out with us. Yeah, Dustin said Beth loves clowns and spiders and cockroaches. Yes, she does.
And if you all do hear my children in the background, they're having a little bit of a hard time getting to sleep, so my apologies.
That's okay. So let's go ahead, Bethany, and get into our subject matter for tonight. We are talking about the moral panic that swept the United States and other countries. But it started here in the good old US of A. Hey, Lisa, I see you on Facebook. It started here in the good old US of A in the 1980s, and it has since been dubbed the Satanic Panic. And to kind of give you what this Satanic Panic is in a nutshell, a lot of you, our listeners who grew up in the 80s and 90s, are going to be very well aware of this.
Also, if you're I don't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Nope. Go ahead.
Well, if you're also a true crime fan, you probably also heard about the alleged daycare scandals, as well as the West Memphis 3, I believe. They were tied to the Satanic Panic.
Yep. And this whole thing started in 1980 when a book that was published called Michelle Remembers. And this book was written by a lady by the name of Michelle Smith and her psychiatrist, who she would later on have an affair with and end up marrying, named Lawrence Pazder, Pazder. Now, Lawrence Pazder used a form of controversial therapeutic psychological practice, which has now been debunked, called recovered memory therapy. And what he was able to do is he did this recovered memory therapy with Michelle, and she started recalling all of these supposedly ritualistic satanic abuses that she went through as a child. And so the more he meets with her, the more of these memories that she has, and he starts writing them down and everything. And they end up publishing this book called Michelle Remembers, where it recounts all of these so-called suppressed memories that she had. I'm going to show you a couple of the more popular covers of the book in case any of you remember this from the 80s.
He had also recorded their sessions.
Yes.
So you can hear some of what they had said, and what you can tell, it's more suggestion than anything.
Yeah. So this is, let me show you their picture. That's Michelle, and that's Pastor. A couple more pictures of him here.
Off topic, I do remember growing up, some of the women still kept that permed hairstyle.
Oh, yeah. So this is who we are talking about right now. This is the couple. And now let's talk a minute before we really get into it. So Pastor used this now discredited form of practice called recovered memory therapy. Now, what this is, it's a form of psychotherapy that is supposedly through forms of psychoanalysis, hypnosis, journaling, past life regression, guided imagery, and the use of sodium amytal. It purportedly helps patients to recall previously forgotten memories. And they claim, those who go through this therapy, that the traumatic memories can be buried in the subconscious, and that this form of therapy is able to bring it out. Now, this RMT type therapy, it's been debunked, and it is not recommended by professional health associates now. And they've showed how this type of therapy and the things that are done, it can result in patients developing false memories of sexual abuse from their childhood. And it can lead to all kinds of other different false things being implanted in a person's mind. And so this is what had happened through this type of therapy that he was doing with Michelle. And the before we go on, Bethany, anything you want to add to that before I actually get into the book?
Other than, the human mind really is a powerful tool, and really anybody can be subjugated to the power of suggestion. It's really not that difficult, and the human brain is very capable and can often, even on its own, create false memories.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy.
Yep. And so what happens is he writes this book, Pastor and Michelle do, and it just takes the country by storm. I mean, they end up getting on all of these talk shows and telling about her experience, and it spreads like wildfire. And imagine waking up, okay, you're in the 1980s, all right, and imagine waking up one day and all of a sudden you start to hear that the whole government is run by secret Satanists, and that there is this huge underground ploy of Satanists that are trying to groom your children, capture your children, take them, they sneak them off, they do some satanic ritual abuses with them, clean them all up, act like nothing's happened, and then give them back to you. this is basically what Michelle Remembers says, that she recalls through these memories all of these issues that she went through as a child of ritualistic satanic abuse, that her parents were involved in this cult and were subjecting her to all kinds of things of this nature. And she goes through and she's recalling about how she was beaten and had all of these scars, but then how Michael the Archangel comes and miraculously heals all these scars, and that's why you can't see them on her body. She has, these memories of Mary, the Mother of God, coming to her and speaking to her in French. And then, she's claiming in all these interviews that she's never spoken French. She has no French background. Years later, her family's coming out and they're saying, Michelle studied French in high school and college, and she was actually very good at it. And so you see that there was not only these false memories being planted, but there was some lying and deception going on as well with this. Anything else in the book, Bethany, about some of her claims that she went through that maybe you can recall you want to shed more light on?
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember. She had also claimed, I think it was something along the lines of, like, she was born into the cult as some kind of sacrifice, or that her mother, do you remember how that started? Was it she was born into it, or her mother had sold her into the cult?
Yeah.
That was one of the claims. And that they had also, and again, trigger warning, if anybody is going to get offended, please change channels. She'd also claimed to have witnessed the sacrifice of children and babies.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, I think using their blood, I want to say.
Yep. And there was stuff in there about, these cult members summoning Satan, and the book claims that, people were tortured and they were locked in cages. They were sexually assaulted. They were forced to participate in all these various rituals that Michelle recalled witnessing several human sacrifices, and was rubbed with the blood and body parts of sacrificed infants and adults. So basically just one huge murderous blood orgy. And she was convinced that these memories were true and that this was going on because she remembered in these false memories that were coming up a whole bunch of other people being there and involved with this type of satanic ritual abuse.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but nobody could ever back up anything she was saying.
Right. None of it could ever be substantiated.
And just to be clear, the Church of Satan vehemently denied everything that she claimed. And actually they ended up, and this will be touched upon later, they threatened a lawsuit because they are protected.
Yeah.
Legally.
Yep. And so it's through Michelle Remembers basically that this mindset of Satanism in our mind of sacrificing babies and all of these horrible things, like, although Satanists don't practice that, don't believe in that, that's the image in our mind because of the Satanic Panic in the 80s. And you're right, Anton LaVey and the Church of Satan really spoke out against this and denied this. And, they were never able to substantiate these claims. But one of the things that sociologists have kind of looked at is why did this moral pandemic take off the way that it did? Like, why did people buy into it? Because you think about it, like, I mean, this is some pretty outrageous and outlandish stuff. And then to say that this is going on all over the country and people are buying into this and they're believing this lady's story, and it creates this huge moral panic throughout the whole United States. Now, when sociologists look back, it was kind of the prime setting for something like this to happen. You had some movies that had come out, all right, that were big on Satanism and things like that, and you're probably all familiar with them, probably seen them. Rosemary's Baby from I think it was 66, and then you had The Exorcist from 73, and then The Omen from 1976. And then later on in the 70s, you had a lot of these exploitative satanic films that were being produced. And so you had this type of thing going on in media and culture and this fascination with these types of movies. Then you had all of these, you had the stuff going on with Charles Manson too, especially the Tate LaBianca, I think that's right, Tate LaBianca murders with Charles Manson that were somewhere, right before that time period. That was another thing, right? Because you already had that in the news, and that was making people a little bit on edge. And then you had Mike Warnke came out with a book in 1972 called The Satan Seller, or Memoir of the Satan Seller. And basically, he claimed to have led a group of 1,500 or so Satanists that engaged in rape and human sacrifice before he converted to evangelical Christianity. And this particular book, right, the Christians jump on this and they started, just pumping it out, and it was praised by Moody, which was a big Christian publisher, and they really pushed this particular book. I mean, it was later, a couple of decades later, was debunked, and the whole thing was proven a lie. But that's what you have going on. And then you also have certain things going on religiously in the culture. You have the rise of fundamentalism, fundamental Christianity. You have the moral majority back in the 80s that was formed. And so you take all of that together, all of these political things, all of these religious things, these books being put out, the movies being put out, and you put it all together, and that sets up the perfect storm for something like the Satanic Panic to happen. All it needed was a catalyst. And that catalyst was the book Michelle Remembers. And when this thing came out, it sold like wildfire, and it spread. And they were on all of these talk shows talking about it, and it raised this sense of urgency. It's like, how are these people getting away with this? Why can't we catch them? And so then you had religious groups working with law enforcement, and you had all of these therapists going to these conferences, getting trained in this type of therapy, and being made aware of satanic ritual abuse. And so everybody starts to practice and do these things. And lo and behold, more people start showing up with all of these false memories about satanic ritual abuse. And it is enough people saying and talking about it that they start offering stuff for law enforcement officers, FBI, CIA, all of these people to start being trained in how to recognize satanic ritual abuse and how to stop it. And then, like Bethany, there were all of these task force that were put in place, and I can't remember if it was one of the guys for the CIA or the FBI that we saw in the interview on that documentary. that he said he started really looking into this in all of these cases, and he could not find anything to substantiate it. And that's when he started kind of wondering, hey, what in the world is going on here?
He was an FBI profiler.
Yeah, okay. That's what it was.
And yeah, he couldn't find anything at all to back any of this up.
Yeah.
And it literally, even watching the documentary and even reading about it, this, to me, the whole thing, it was basically a modern day Salem witch hunt. I mean, it was.
Yeah, and that's what people have compared it to. Hey, Saturnian, welcome. I hadn't seen you in the chat. Glad that you're with us.
And you are right. It had a political aspect. And don't forget, I mean, the 80s was a shift. I mean, these were children of the hippie movement. I mean, and what was interesting about that time is you saw the shift from, free love and all of that the hippie movement and all of that, and then it shifted into more conservative. There was more money, and things changed.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
One of the things I just found in my notes I had written down, we were going about what she talked about. She did talk about in the book that how at the age of 5, she was tortured by her mother for days in elaborate satanic rituals. As the torture reached a climax, a portal to hell opened and Satan himself appeared, only to be driven away by the Virgin Mary and Archangel Michael. So yes, the claims were that her mother did these things to her, and you had all the family come in and speaking out and was like, our mother did not do this. She wasn't this type of person. And the sisters are speaking out against Michelle and saying that this is not true. And back then, they didn't have access to information as fast as we have it now. But what they ended up finding out and looking through Michelle's history and her past, during this time frame that she had claimed to be abducted, okay, because she was talking about, it was while she was 5 years old during this certain time frame that they had abducted her and taken her away and did all of these things. During that time frame when she's supposed to be missing, lo and behold, she shows up in her class photo for her school class for that year. And they looked at the attendance records and nothing was off at all that would give any type of indication that she was taken away for a long period of time. And so once they were able to really start researching this, I mean, it took a long time, but it was all eventually debunked in mid-90s. Everything started to settle down, but the damage had already been done.
Yeah, because this was after there were multiple people who had gone to jail. There were people who were tried and convicted falsely with very little to no evidence.
Yep,
just hearsay.
That's the next thing that we're going to get on. So Michelle Remembers, the book, is what started this initial wave of satanic panic and ritualistic abuse and things happening to children. Then you had more people practicing this type of therapy, and then more accusations came out, and people were being accused, schools were being accused. There were all of these different lawsuits. A lot of them fell through, were never carried out because of lack of evidence. But one of the most famous trials on this in cases was the McMartin preschool trial. I think I put some pictures up here. One second.
And I do remember in the early 90s, around this time, they also had the Lifetime movies. Like, one of them was based on this. I think it was, do you know The Muffin Man? It was just based on these ludicrous claims.
Yeah, I don't know if I have any pictures of it. Yeah, I do. There we go. So this little simple looking preschool. You see that there's not much to it at all. This became the center of national attention for a while in the media. So the McMartin preschool trial was a daycare sexual abuse case in the 1980s, right after the book comes out, and it is so many charges of sexual abuse and that the child that was made against the child care workers. The accusations were made in 1983, right? Michelle Remembers come out in 1980. So you're talking 3 years after you've had all the paranoia build, people being trained in that type of therapy. And so this is when the accusations first came out, and then everything didn't get settled and thrown out until 1990. So for 7 years, this was ongoing. And the allegations came from a lady. It started from a lady by the name of Judy Johnson. She's a mother of one of the preschool students, and she reported to the police that her son had been sodomized by her estranged husband and also by one of the McMartin teachers named Ray Buckey. And Buckey was the grandson of the school's founder, Virginia, and she had other family members in the administration there. So you're kind of looking at a kind of family-oriented type of thing going on here. And the son was saying how he was having all these painful bowel movements, and they accused the daycare workers of doing that. Not really figuring out why and how these accusations were coming up, but there were hundreds of accusations of these type of things going on in the preschool. And it gets even crazier, all right? They were talking about how the children said there were tunnels that were dug under the ground, and how they were taken down there. They were exposed to all this stuff. The kids were also talking about how they were seeing like witches flying around and all of this stuff. And there's like some outlandish childhood stuff going on here, but yet, any type of abuse like that, you've got to take serious with the accusation. And they ended up bringing a lady in to talk to the children, and they recorded everything. And this lady was able to get the children to admit to having things happen to them. However, during the course of the trial, you had people examine this lady's interview with the kids, and they were appalled because there was clear evidence that this lady was leading the kids on, trying to get them to answer the questions in a certain way, how she would praise them if they answered in a way that fit the narrative, and then she would chide them if they answered in a way that didn't fit the narrative. And so you had all of these accusations. You had people losing their job, losing their livelihood, and it was all over the news. And eventually, like I said, none of this stuff could ever be substantiated. but the damage had already been done. These accusations have been made. And you have to think there's already this cultural pressure of these therapists and people saying this is a thing. There is really a secret society of Satanists alive and well in this country that are trying to destroy our children and take over the country. That was the running narrative. And so they made this case fit that narrative until enough evidence came out to be able to debunk it and to say that none of this actually happened. And this lady who's supposed to be protecting kids, she's actually leading them on and trying to get them to answer in certain ways that go with this particular narrative. And so it's just wild. Bethany, you have anything to add to that?
Well, in recent articles that came out from the children who are now adults, they said that it was the psychologist. It was for a lot of the kids. They said that they went along with it because, and this is true amongst children, they want to be loved. They want approval. So if an adult or any authority figure is coming at them with this kind of evidence, and they even admitted, I wanted love and approval, and I wanted the adults in the room to like me, so I said it. And other people said, one woman said that she was, I want to say 8 years old, and she said, I was told that my saying nothing happened, they said, no, you're repressing memories, you're denying. And she said that they were, and she wasn't the only one to say this, is that law enforcement at that time, they weren't just asking these children sexual things. And again, trigger warning, sensitive material. They were bringing up sexual acts between teachers and children. I mean, they said it was horrific. Like it was almost as though, like reading the articles, it was more like law enforcement sadly was corrupting these kids way more than anyone else.
Yeah.
And they've all said that it didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Hello, NH Mountain Girl and Softball Susie. Thank y'all for joining us for our subject on Satanic Panic.
Yes. And basically what also helped stop this was the cost that these lawsuits were costing the city. This case in particular cost the city around $15 million. And this would have been back in like the late 80s. So think of inflation and how much that would be today.
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest things that made people stop. And also when public defenders and prosecutors decided that it's very easy to sway a child. I mean, it's not that hard to get a child to say or go along with something if you start implanting the seeds, because a child is going to want approval.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, here's some of the things I wrote down. This is what the accusations were, and this is what the kids reported seeing. In addition to the abuse, they saw witches fly. They traveled in hot air balloons and were taken through underground tunnels. When shown a series of photographs by Danny Davis, who was the McMartin's lawyer, one child identified actor Chuck Norris as one of the abusers. And again, I wrote down stuff about the tunnels under the schools. They went and they did excavations there, and they turned up evidence of old buildings on the site and debris and from stuff before the school was built, but there were no secret chambers or underground tunnels or things like that. And so it's just, they were they were sold on this narrative of ritualistic abuse, and they were pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And it, cost the city so many millions of dollars. It costs people their livelihood. It costs people their jobs. And it was a tidal wave of hysteric panic. I mean, the name Satanic Panic is really fitting for what happened during this time period. And it's scary, y'all, that something like that could happen. And that did happen, that you had all of these professional people, educated people, psychiatrists. You even had, political parties involved. You had different religions, especially Christians, involved. You had law enforcement involved. Everybody at first convinced, 100% convinced that this was going on, and that Michelle Smith and Pastor were telling the absolute truth. All because he did some type of now debunked psychoanalysis and psychotherapy, and she comes up with these memories. That's what all of this was based on. Somebody recalled some memories, put it in a book, and then boom. But we looked at why it did so well. I mean, the soil was fertile with everything going on in the country, with the movies, the media, the extreme right-wingist Christian fundamentalism. Everything was there, and it was the perfect combination of combustible material, and combust it did. Yes, Eternian, it's like Salem. It really is. Just the mob mentality, the lack of thinking something through, the fear. Like, people react. If you can get somebody panicked and afraid, you can get them to react in ways that they normally wouldn't act. And that's what happened in this. But thank God for that FBI agent. Thank God for all these people that challenged it and were able to shut this thing down. Because as we're going to talk about later in some of the upcoming shows, like this just didn't infiltrate books. It didn't infiltrate, mainstream media. It just didn't take place in the courthouse. Like, this trickled all the way down. The paranoia trickled all the way down into saying Satan was coming after your children. Demons were coming after your children through heavy metal music. Demons were coming after your children through horror movies. Demons were coming after your children through Dungeons and Dragons. And then we're going to talk about this in the weeks to come. When the Satanic Panic got a religious movement behind it, when it got fundamental Christianity behind it, that's when it went haywire. And you had the Geraldo Rivera show from 1987 on Satanism and the occult. You had Christian Ministry put out this huge 3-hour documentary called Hell's Bells on the evil of rock and roll music. You had people like Bob Larson, who's since been proven as a fraud in his radio show Talkback, who was supposedly casting out demons on the air and was going around to churches and having Satanists follow him, and he would cast demons out in these services. Like, everybody who could exploited this thing all over. And that's exactly what happened. It was one huge exploitative movement that people fed and preyed off others' fears. And that's exactly what happened in this. So we're going to be looking at the trickle down in the weeks to come of the Satanic Panic. But I think it's important to know how this started off, because I know a lot of times when people discussing this subject, they immediately jump to the rock and roll music and the Dungeons and Dragons and the horror movies. It did not start there. It wasn't just like people woke up one day and said Dungeons and Dragons is demonic, horror movies are evil, all that stuff. No, it got to that because in 1980, with the release of Michelle Remembers and Satanic Ritual Abuse, that is what started it all, and it just took on a life of its own. And it's just, I think, Bethany, if you see one great example of the ignorance of media and ignorant religious people spreading falsehood and causing panic in a culture, that is a prime example. Very prime example. Still there, Blondie?
Yeah, I was listening. Well, to me, I mean, there were so many victims of all of this. Again, I think of the West Memphis Three. I mean, these three boys were convicted purely because of the Satanic Panic. And the thing is that, to me, I'm a history lover. You can't exactly blame just Christianity for ignorance. It's anybody who has any monicum of ignorance. That's usually what leads to. It's any bit of misinformation can be very dangerous.
Right.
I've seen it. I'm sorry. I've seen it politically. I have seen it religiously. I've seen it run the gambit. It's not just delegated to one sect. It's across the board.
This was all across the board. My saying it was just propagated by this, but I mean, it was ignorance all across the board. Like, people, were trusting the media. They trusted Dr. Pastor. They trusted their pastors in Christian churches, and they were all wrong about this. And I think it's just an extremely important lesson of don't forget, don't immediately believe the first thing you hear about something.
Well, that, and listen to both sides. I mean, if you're going to have a debate, so you listen to Michelle says, well, why not interview somebody who is actually a member or even a priest of the Satanic Church and ask them?
Yeah.
Or, do your own research. And yeah, I mean,
yeah, Saturnian brings up something good here. He says, don't forget to suppress free speech, blame everyone who doesn't agree. Like, you saw that in the Satanic Panic. Like, even when they had the Satanists on there, even when they had people debunking it on the talk shows, like, people would just boo them, shut them down. They didn't want to hear it. And they would get, go to the emotional aspect and say, oh, so you're saying that this person's experience wasn't real. They're lying. Look at them, how distraught they are. How could you say that? And it was the people who were disagreeing were getting blasted. How dare you go against this?
Yeah, and it's very easy to shout someone down, to shut them up, and then the other person is not going to want to defend themselves. They're just going to shut up. Yeah. And so anybody watching is going to say, oh, they're guilty. No, anybody can hear, but it does take it takes actual effort to listen, to actively listen. And to me, it was just, it was just incredibly tragic, and it spiraled a lot of a very tragic series of events.
Yeah, because like I can remember in thinking back in when I did my first master's degree in divinity, taking a class on cults and the occult, and some of the stuff I remember reading and studying and going back and thinking about that whole time period of the 80s and the Satanic Panic and everything that had happened and stuff, and then like looking at what the Church of Satan really believed for like the first time in my life, and actually sitting down and reading it and going back and looking at that, and then getting into the Satanic Panic more. And that was like the first time I had heard about Michelle Remembers and started researching and looking into it. And that was when I realized just how awful a thing that this was that happened. That this wasn't some, okay, so like those of us growing up in the 80s, right? When I think about my experience with Satanic Panic, I think of the fun nights of being scared, of watching horror movies, worrying is like, is there really some freaking demon that's going to come into my home? Like, I just listened to a heavy metal song, or I just saw this heavy metal album. Is there really something that's going to come get me? Because I walked across the store and I saw the heavy metal album with all of these symbols on it, like that, that kind of sense of it. But then when you look at what it really is, like this wasn't just like fun and games, scary Halloween things. Like people's lives were ruined because of what happened in this book, and it puts it into a whole different type of perspective for me.
Yeah, I remember growing up with it, and again, I was raised by a single parent in pretty bad area, so I remember the whole, oh, if you listen to songs backwards, you'll hear this or that, or certain, what else? That, you would open a door. And I remember my mother and my brother just laughing at it. And, again, because it's not a great area, we were like, well, yeah, I mean, if you take certain pharmaceuticals or drink enough, yeah, I'm sure you are going to see or hear demons.
Yeah. Next week, or not next week, but next time that we do Southern Discomfort on Satanic Panic for our next show, I'm going to get into some of the things I saw. Like I actually went and saw the guy I was talking about, Bob Larson. He was speaking at a church and during the whole Satanic Panic thing and rise of Satanism and people trying to kill the babies and all this stuff, and actually saw him at a church and saw some of the theatrics and stuff like that. So I'll talk about my experience with it growing up, and then, you've probably already gathered my perspective on it, but my perspective on it as a Christian and a chaplain and a Christian minister. We'll get into more of that. So next time it'll be more personal stuff, and we'll look at the heavy metal aspect of it and how all that, how it went from being about this book, Michelle Remembers, Satanic Abuse, and how that shifted onto heavy metal as a focus of being part of the Satanic Panic and Dungeons and Dragons. Like how in the world those two things even got sucked into it. So that is the direction we will be going next in this series. Yeah, it was about control, PW. It was using fear to control people. And, I can remember growing up with it and seeing it in the the churches, and I'll talk about that more next time, and even how as a kid it felt exploitative to me. So, but lots more to come on this topic. So we'll go ahead and start wrapping things up for tonight. But that is just the brief introduction of how this whole monstrosity and craziness started.
Now, are you going to go over like what ended up happening to Michelle, like afterwards, or
Yeah,
or is that going to be later?
We'll get into that as we go on. Tonight was just meant to be an introduction to it, and wanted to talk about the book and the court cases and just the total.
So before we end, I mean, with your closing thought, do you believe that? Because the thing of it, like, do you believe that Michelle was a bad person, or the psychologist, or do you want to get into that at another time, or?
We can get into that more. Like, there's stuff that went on with Michelle and who she was as a person, and stuff that needs to be brought to the forefront. And we eventually will. I mean, it's the same thing with all of this stuff. Like, when we looked at Amy Carlson and Cult of the Mother God, like, how does somebody get into this and do this and become that way? Well, we talked about it, and then we looked at things that happened and shaped her, and you can see what led to that. And there's some similar things with Michelle Smith and the Michelle Remembers thing, and then also with Padster as well. There's always more than one thing going on. Just know that. Always more than one little thing. There's always more than one reason why stuff happens like that.
Yep. It's not just one. There's many.
Yep. See, Softball Susie says, I grew up in the 60s. It was a lot different then.
Yeah, it was.
Yep. So, I just wanted to remind everybody before we go, I have autograph copies, paperbacks of my books. If anybody wants to purchase any copies of them, you can email me at ezekielkincaid@gmail.com. And I can give you the prices and stuff on those and send you, but show you, I've got paperback copies of Tetramet Tapes In. Send you a signed copy of that. This is the found footage cult horror. I also have my Dreadful Death series available. The Dawning, The Gathering, and The Morning. And this is the paranormal / possession tale that is a little bit like Lovecraft. And then, of course, my horror comedies, Johnny Walker Ranger, Demon Slayer 1 and 2. If you like Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, this is basically same type of humor and over-the-top characters and blood and guts and violence. So I've got new orders of those in, so if anybody's interested, you can just email me, EzekielKincaid@gmail.com, and I can get those to you. Bethany, anything else before we close out?
No.
Are you excited about our bed and breakfast?
No, and I'm not going with you. And again, but those reviews, that's not the worst. Again, praising the cockroach motel with the cigarette burns all over the mattress, that's the one that takes the cake here, okay?
Well, I can cancel this and look for a worse one. That's what I'll do.
No, we're not doing this. We're not, okay? No.
All right, Dustin. So this one wasn't bad enough for her. She had to go and open her mouth.
Well, no, it's just that I'm sorry. It's just that how do you compete with, all hail, cockroach here to, well, the guy was creepy. Well, what do you mean by creepy? And I agreed with, I forget who said it in chat. Do you mean that it was creepy or gross? I mean, like, come on.
Well, I will find a worse one.
I also stayed at a really bad hotel that had a really odd brownish, I'm pretty sure it was a blood stain from some kind of wound in the middle of the floor.
I'll try to find one like that.
No. I mean, I've stayed at some real humdingers here, so to hear these, it's like, hey, you all are just splitting hairs here.
Here's the thing is I was trying to be nice. I didn't go all out because I wanted to do something kind of nice for you. But now it's not dirty enough. It's not good enough. So I'm going to find something worse, which I should have done to begin with.
Well, it's just that I'm sorry. It's just I've had really, really bad experiences. I mean, like,
I'm going to find something bottom of the barrel so that you can't say, "Oh, it can't be worse."
I even stayed at a historic bed and breakfast where I was woken up at 2:00 in the morning by two drunk people fighting that ended in a gunfight. So, yeah. I told you I've stayed at some of the worst places.
So, Dustin, I was trying to take it easy on her and be sweet because she complains about how I'm not nice. But now we are going full on worst thing I can possibly find. So
again, I don't think you're going to fight. You're going to top the red light bathroom with the sacrificial cockroach.
No, Dustin wants to send you chocolate covered cockroaches.
I think they're disgusting to me. I mean, those things are just. You want to look at hell on earth, it's a cockroach, okay? Because they're creepy to begin with, but when those things start flying, I don't care how deep of a voice you have or how much you can weightlift, you will scream like a little girl.
Well, we need to deep fry them for you so they're out
What?
nice.
No, they're disgusting. You worked pest control. Like, you know how gross and filthy they are.
I'm going to get just this humongous Tupperware full of cockroaches.
Don't. I swear to you, I know.
Yes, and here's what I'm going to do. This is what we're going to do.
Don't, please. I really don't like them. Stop it.
I'm talking like one of those huge Tupperware, those totes.
Stop.
Well, I'm going to get a thing full of cockroaches like that. And then when we go to our new destination, all right, we're going to have some oil and grease, and we're going to get a deep fryer going, and I'm just going to pour all of them in that deep fryer. And we're going to have some deep fried cockroaches, nice and crunchy for you. Get kind of stuck between your teeth a little bit, so you're kind of like.
I hope everybody is listening, and so now they all know the motive as to why you will suddenly just disappear off the face of the earth.
For what? I'm not going anywhere.
Oh, God. That's Dustin.
I'm not going to disappear. I'm taking you with me.
I'm not going.
Yeah, you are. You cannot say no.
You're saying shush.
No.
Oh, man. All I see when I see that is just, oh, okay. Okay, my mouth's starting to water here in the pre-vomity way. Come on, get it off.
Eat your vomit, kids. It makes you strong and healthy. Forget Flintstone vitamins.
Stop. I'm going to gag on live feed here. Come on. All right, just end the show. Just get it off.
No. Now I want to see the throw up cotton candy eating clown again, Dustin.
Stop it. Get it off. Get it off. Get it off. Come on.
It's a nutritious meal.
Stop.
Kids,
come on.
It's Zeke's new diet plan.
Get it off. It's disgusting.
You can get your vitamins twice.
I don't want to gag in front of all these people. Come on.
Because that is.
Is it off? Get it off.
It's cotton. That was excellent, Dustin. You need to make something come out of the vomit now for Bethany.
Okay, stop. Come on.
Like stop. with cockroaches coming out of the puke. That
I
is
no, no, because he's gonna send it to me. I mean, like, it's bad enough the jokes. I mean, they're so outdated and so awful. It's like he got him off of an outhouse.
uh,
I swear, not even like the wall of a men's bathroom bad. No, this is wall of an outhouse that hasn't been used since 1963.
that poop's been marinating in there for 60 years.
Ugh.
So
On that note,
next week, next time, next show, and we will continue talking about the Satanic Panic. I'm going to try to do Immortal Shadows on Sunday at 8 Central. So if you tune back in, we will be in Revelation chapter 14 coming up. So that's what we have going on Sunday night. But until next time, if you want to watch a great documentary on the Michelle Remembers, it was it Satan Wants You? Was that what it was on Tubi?
yeah, it was Satan Wants You.
Satan Wants You. So that's free on Tubi. It's a great documentary on the book Michelle Remembers and how it came to be, and about Michelle and about Pastor and their background and how they got together and all the ruckus that the book caused. So I would definitely point you to that documentary, Satan Wants You, on Tubi. It's definitely worth the watch. So thank you, Dustin. But thank you, everybody in chat, for coming and hanging out with us tonight as we get into Satanic Panic. And we appreciate the support and everybody tuning in and hanging out and chat with us, watching us on PPR, Yo Baby, and on Facebook. And we will shut it off here with our inspirational video that Dustin has made for us, like we do each show. Bethany, do you have any closing thoughts besides cotton candy?
Please. No.
What if I do that one day?
What?
Throw up cotton candy in a bowl.
Come on, just stop. All right, stop. All right, here's a closing thought. When you're pursuing any topic or you're interested in anything, read both sides. Don't just read one argument, but try to go at it from all sides and check your resources. Where did you hear about it? Where did you learn about it?
Yeah. That's good coming from a blonde.
Really, Mr. Let's Deep Fry Cockroaches? Really?
Yeah, I'm proud of you.
Just close the show.
See, I can't be nice. She doesn't let me be nice. I say something nice, like, that's great.
That was underhanded. That wasn't nice. You're just angry at me because I said that you have hair like Sam Whitemoon from Creepshow 2.
Yeah, so she's on me to cut my hair. She
No, I'm not. I can't. My gosh, I can't win for losing. I was teasing.
So I shaved my beard because she didn't like it.
No,
like my hair.
Say that.
And I'm going to shave my head.
Please don't. Oh, no. Come on. You have beautiful hair. You have a beautiful head of hair. Let it go. I was just teasing you.
I'm going to get a head tattoo.
Don't do that.
I'm going to get a head tattoo of a gorilla mooning people. So when I lift my head down like that, you have a gorilla butt looking at you.
Please don't do that. Because you would do that.
Why? If I want to
leave the hair, it's beautiful. Gosh, I make one joke. You make 1,000. That's okay. I say one thing. I will hear about it till the day I die.
I was complimenting you and saying that you were talking good and smart for a blonde, and I get in trouble for that.
Can't win for losing. Sweet dreams, everybody.
All right. Thank you all for joining us. And please stick around for Dustin's video. We appreciate you. Love y'all. Thank you for the support.
Is this what giving up feels like? I don't know, I don't know. Tell me, have I lost my mind? Nowhere to go, so far from home. Is this what giving up feels like? I don't know.